think most people would love to be able to spend money as they saw fit, just any amount of money anytime they wanted to do, but we can't because we only make so much money. That's just something that happens, and it's something that's true. I wanted to talk about this idea they're still spending on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Tuesday, what is it today? The 10th of May. I didn't correct my dates of 2022. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That's the Kurt's Religion and Politics page on Facebook, on Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com, on Minds, MINDS.com, on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, primarily there on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be picking me up today. Subject for today is they're still spending, and that's particularly with regard to government, but I'll get into the why that's an important thing as I go along here. I'm going to go ahead and go through my notes to give you some idea sort of where I'm coming from and set a baseline for what we're going to be talking about today. You know what really annoys me? People who are willing to settle for balancing the federal budget. See, that means folks at the national level politically can keep on spending what they have planned with impunity. I'm not looking for that. Sadly, most folks aren't even thinking about what I want to see. I want to see major cuts in the national budget. They're not just spending money for things for which they have no mandate, but for things they cannot afford to buy. Imagine being able to go out and splurge on a new pool table and a Bentley with no consequences. Well, we're well past that, where our highest level of government is concerned. What makes all of this more difficult is that the folks who vote for these compulsive shoppers insist they're doing it for the good of the little guy. Either that, or at least the folks who are being voted in insist that that's true, and it's just not the case. But what's more important is this. Imagine you worked in a job where you made baby bottles. One day you decided you're going to start making cars. You don't own the company, nor do you have approval from anyone to start doing that. One day you just decide you're going to do it. What do you think the company for whom you're working is likely to do to you? I'm betting you'd go the way of the dinosaur, and in a hurry, too. That's particularly true if the company had a charter or had charter documents that said you only had the right to make those formula and breast milk containers. Yet even though the U.S. literally has such a set of charter documents that say overarching government has an extremely limited number of enumerated powers, there's still been an ongoing attempt, which sadly has largely been successful, to overstep those documents. This started a very long time ago and has gotten worse with every passing day. All of this would be bad enough if the folks doing the spending were not laying out substance they didn't have one way and another. When you consider they are doing that, it becomes far worse. In case I haven't said it to this point, and I haven't, by the way, when I wrote this, I wasn't sure. I want to make something plain to you. You, and I'm going to point at you like Bongino says I shouldn't, are responsible for this. Why is that true? Because the authority those in positions of power are taking is yours. That authority that they're taking, is yours. Those people doing wrong are supposedly serving, not at their own pleasure, at yours. It's time to do something about it. If you're a voter, it's time to stop supporting people who are willing to spend ever more money on things they're ever less able to justify based on the charter that exists, and by the way, the money that they have available to them. I want to make one last point before I go into open discussion. Even if you found a way to pay off all the debt the U.S. owes at this point, which I'm telling you haven't, can I tell you why that's not the answer you would hope it was? Because they're still spending. Okay, I'm done with my notes. I want to go ahead and talk about this some more. It doesn't, again, like I say, look, I aim for that mic drop moment in my notes. I do. But I need you to understand this. People who keep trying to misdirect or redirect you to this idea of a balanced budget, that's not a thing. There's no such thing as a balanced budget when you're already indebted to the tune of over $30 trillion. There's no such thing as a balanced budget unless you can tell me how you're going to make that overage disappear. And more importantly, way more importantly in my opinion, regardless that if you've got a bunch of people who insist that they need to keep spending, even if you get what they have spent under control, which by the way, I'll just tell you, I don't believe you're going to do. Okay, but even if you could get that under control, they're still spending, people. And until you can get that taken care of, excuse me, got something in my eye. Until you can get that taken care of, nothing else matters. It's like, I used to tell my wife, she would bring stuff into the house and I would say, don't bring that into the house if you don't have anywhere to put it, or to take the time to throw things away, or find a place for things to be and put them in their place. And I have a junky house right now as a result, and I'm working slowly to try and bring it into a good place. And I'll admit some of it is my fault because I just basically came to the point where I felt like I couldn't do anything about it. I won't go into detail where that all ended up, but my point is this. If you're not going to be responsible for what you do, if somebody gives you the right to spend money that you don't have, you will very likely take that initiative, if you will, and you will spend that money that you have no right, rhyme, or reason to spend. In my opinion, before you can even begin to talk about dealing with the debt that the United States currently finds itself in, you have to stop the spending, stop the hemorrhaging. You don't tell somebody who's bleeding to death, to do things to get their blood levels up. No, you stop the hemorrhaging, you stop the bleeding. First, that's the first thing you do. We're hemorrhaging money in this country. We're doing things we cannot afford, and it's horrible, and we're never going to fix our spending issues, our debt issues until we fix our spending issues. It's never going to happen. You can come up with lovely solutions for fixing the debt issues, but if I tell you, oh yeah, no problem, we'll pay off that $10,000 in debt that you racked up shopping on the internet, and then you say, oh goody, and you go out and spend $10,000 more dollars, have I really accomplished anything? Have I? I'm here to tell you, from my perspective, the answer to that question is no. They're still spending. Until we get it in our minds that we have to stop them from doing that, until they get it in their minds that they have to stop spending, it's just not going to get any better. I don't care if you figure out how to pay what's already out there. It's not going to get any better. People who talk about the fact that we're already hopelessly in debt, the thing is, people have been hopelessly in debt before and found brilliant ways to get around that. Well, whatever it happens to be, they found ways to get around that. But if people continue to spend when they're horrendously in debt, it's going to be hard to fix the problem. You're just not going to do it. As long as you've got people who will continue to hemorrhage money, it doesn't matter if you find ways to make or collect money that make it possible for you to pay back all of your debt, because you're just going to generate more debt. That's all that's going to happen. That's what you need to understand. If we can't figure out how to get these people to stop spending, and not just really at any level, but there are certain things you just have to do. You got to buy food for your family. Well, that kind of spending you have to do. You have to pay your mortgage. Well, that kind of spending you have to do. So there is a certain amount of spending within reason that you have to allow for. So I'm not saying you just make all spending go away, because you can't. It's not possible to do that. But as long as we keep throwing good money after bad, the war on poverty, the war on drugs, I hate to say it, so many other things that we're doing right now, welfare of various kinds that we're putting out there. As long as we're continuing to spend, things will not get better. And it's already bad enough that we're going to have to spend money on things. That's already bad enough. We need to stop spending on things. Look, we already can't afford to spend on the things that we need. We need to stop spending on frivolous things that we know full well we can't afford. We have to stop that. It's time to quit. Okay. This has been the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today's Tuesday, the 10th of May of 2022. That means tomorrow will be Wednesday, that middle of the week day, 11th of May of 2022, obviously. Welcome to everybody, and thank you for having come along on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics page on Facebook, on Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com, on minds.com, primarily on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group there, on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be seeing or hearing me today. Subject for today is They're Still Spending. Tomorrow we're going to talk on the subject of You'll Surely Die. That's the subject that we're going to talk about tomorrow. You'll find out exactly what I'm talking about when I do that. I think you'll find it interesting, and I think that you'll learn, maybe think about some things in different ways than you have up until this point. For lots of folks, I think that is how that will work out. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again on tomorrow's. That will be Wednesday's edition. Wednesday, the 11th edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was created on Tuesday, the 10th of May of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching today's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back tomorrow to check out the next one. Remember, on various platforms, primarily Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub, and the audio podcast, you can subscribe to my content. For the audio podcast, you probably want to use Apple, Google, or Spotify. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. In order to find me on those platforms, you can go to the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub. You can also get to my content on Facebook by finding the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there, minds.com, where you will find me at the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, and Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com as well. You can look there. I post my daily video on various social media sites, really only about 3, Parler, Gab, and Twitter at present. I am at KP Schubert on each of them, and you can find me under them, and you can find the videos under me. You should be able to find my podcasts on Google and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's also on podcasts.kpschubert.com. That's podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. If you're looking for me on various of the podcast sites, you probably want to search Kurt's Religion and Politics, not the Daily Summation. Keep in mind, you can subscribe to my content on various places that I put it. All constructive feedback is welcome. You can like, dislike, add a rumble, or give whatever feedback is available on any of the platforms that you can do such things. You can also add a comment on what I put there. Unless you're advertising or doing something that I believe will harm others, I'll leave your comments out there even if I don't agree with or understand them. I will try to let you know I've seen them when possible and may reply if I feel it's reasonable, appropriate, and possible, of course. Thanks again for viewing this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back again for tomorrow's as well.